Hello, Namaskaram, and let us begin with a small prayer. So let us all close our eyes and just listen to this prayer, or you can even repeat after me. Om Sahanam Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. In this session, I'm going to be talking about Samkhya Yoga, Chapter 2, and in that, I'm targeting paras 39 to 45. And let me just read out from Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan's Bhagavad Gita on para 39. Esha te bihita samkhye buddhir yoge tumim shrunu buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. What has happened is, in this chapter, when Arjuna is in a complete state of despondency, as we had seen in chapter 1 and in the beginning of chapter 2, and when Arjuna is trying to understand as to what should he be doing, should he be fighting this battle or not, so this typical state of confusion. So here the real education has actually started, where the conscience or Krishna is trying to show any person what how does this mind work, and what exactly is the constituent of our entire body, our mind, and the world, and how they interact with each other. It's a very beautiful place where, according to Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan in this book, he's trying to link up the Sankhya and the yoga versions, or we call it as the darshanas. There are two different darshanas. There's a Sankhya darshana and there's a yoga darshana. So the Sankhya darshana is more on the logic and on the philosophy side of the world, and the yoga is more focused on the action part of the world. And here is where the combination of the two comes into place, and a beautiful philosophy gets explained here, which I will try and relate it to very practical aspects of how we can apply it in our life, and how does it relate and become relevant to the modern day life of ours. So this is the beauty of this entire paras which follow from here on. But the essence of these 4, 5, 6 paragraphs that we are going to talk about is something that I would try and convert it or relate it to a practical life. So let's understand what Lord Krishna is trying to tell here, and what is the meaning, and then we will relate it to our life. So what Lord Krishna here says is, there is a body, there is this buddhi that all of us have. What is this body, mind, intellect? So body, then there is an intellect, and there is a mind. So typically we look at two aspects out here. One is the intellect that we possess, which is also called buddhi. So most of the shlokas that we talk about, like Gayatri Mantra, it focuses a lot on this word dhi, or which is equivalent of buddhi. Okay, so dhyo yo na prachodayat. Okay, so dhimahi. So these are all these words. Dhi comes from the thing buddhi. So we are only trying to tell, or trying to reaffirm to ourselves that we have to make our buddhi very strong. This is how all these shlokas have been designed. Now, why is it important? Because there is intelligence is not only about analyzing and putting things into perspective, but is also about recognition and discrimination. What is right, what is wrong, where. Now, why is this important here? Is because there is a second aspect which is called the mind. Now, let me put up very what Lord Krishna is trying to say here is, if you make your intelligence very strong and make it so sharp that it is able to control the mind, to not run behind the senses and keep this in control, then you can actually understand what is right and what is wrong and take the right action in life. Now, this is the entire meaning of this paragraph. Now, this looks very complex and very difficult to relate in real life. So let me try and give you a complete analogy as to how this is relevant to our real life. Now let's understand. There is a mind which is getting attracted to the senses. So the mind is the main thing. Just there's a beautiful lecture that I heard from one of the great IM professors, who Professor Mahadevan, who was speaking about it. He says even if you have a piece, PIECE of mind, you can have no peace of mind, PEACE. Now, very beautifully said. What it means is that this mind is the biggest culprit. Why? Because this mind has got a beautiful quality, and which is given by nature to run behind the senses. Now, the senses are belonging to us, the mind is belonging to us. However, that means this is the inner world of ours, and there is an outer world. So, in this outer world, there is this all these attractions that are there, the objects which look nice, which feel nice, which smell nice, and this mind has got a tendency to run behind them. So, this is the natural aspect of a human being. So, we are all always trying to run behind. This is how desires get created, and these desires through the nature. So in the 39 to 45, it also talks about the three gunas state of affairs, the three gunas, that is the sattvic gun, the tamasic gun, and the rajasic gun, which is part of nature, which is what is binding on this mind and keeps driving the mind in the directions of the senses. So when I want to achieve something, so if you ask youngsters today, if you talk to youngsters, generally they'll say that I want to make a lot of money, I want a big house, I want a big car, I want to do this, I want to do that. So all these things are nothing but the gunas which are acting on the mind, and the mind is running behind that. Now, is this the right way to live life? Now, when we ask people, forget children, even when we ask people, the goals are being set in terms of, I want a bigger house, I want a bigger car, or I want to earn this, or I want to earn so much of bank balance has to be there. This is the thing that is driving most of the people when they immediately talk about achievements or setting goals. So goal setting, it has been set as, okay, what is the next goal that you have? I have to pick up a big house, I have to pick up a big car. So this is exactly what happens in a normal human life, that we are always running behind the objects of the world, and that is where the mind is playing a big role. What is said here is there is something called an intelligence. Now, what is this intelligence? This intelligence is like, something that is controlling this mind to ensure that the mind doesn't go astray running behind those objects of the world. Now, nobody should misunderstand saying that running behind the objects of the world, or becoming rich, or achieving your goals of getting a bigger house and a bigger car and a lot of money is wrong. No, not at all. It is required, very much required in the present world, and everybody should aspire to become rich and wealthy and famous. Absolutely no doubts about it. So this session is not to tell youth that you should not think of becoming rich. You must think of becoming rich, no doubts about it. However, there is a minute difference in the way you look at what you have to achieve and how you set your goals. Now, where is this point coming up? Now, the intelligence here is something which is much superior to the mind. Now, what does this intelligence do? The intelligence is trying to tell you that whatever your, there is no doubt everybody has to work in this world. If I am breathing today, if I am living a life today, work is something that is happening naturally. If you are thinking, you are working, because thinking leads to action. Any thought leads to action. Therefore, this thought process of yours is something that leads you to work. Now, whether this thought process of yours is directed towards only those material objects of, getting a big house and a car and a lot of money, or is there a intelligent thought of creating some value, creating wealth. Now understand, when we are talking about creating wealth, it is not about affluence. Now, having a very big house, having a flamboyant personality and a car and lot of money is something like an affluent, thing that is there in the mind, and you're trying to create affluence. Creating wealth is necessarily not about affluence. Affluence can be a part of the wealth that you have created. There's nothing wrong in it, but wealth is much beyond affluence. Now, when we are talking of intelligent thinking, what, according to this Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna is trying to say, what I have interpreted here through reading Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan and Swami Chinmayananda's Holy Gita, is that The intelligence or the mind of the buddhi or the mind or the intelligence that you possess is something that gives you a purpose. And this purpose is so beautiful and so large and so huge and unlimited and infinite that it leads to those outcomes that you have been desiring. But you are not focusing on the desires of those outcome, but you're rather focusing more on the purpose. So if a person is able to tune the intelligence or the mind to understand that focusing on the purpose is more important than focusing on the outcome. So what happens is the intention or the thought becomes more intelligent than just running behind the desires. As simple as that. And understand it in our life. Why does a business exist today in the world? A business does not exist to make that businessman very wealthy. If that is what a businessman is thinking, his business is doomed. The business exists because there is a need in the world, because that business is solving a purpose, because it is actually solving somebody's need for certain products or certain services. So if the intention behind the businessman is to solve that purpose with excellence, to give extreme infinite value to the customer, the outcomes are bound to come which are also equivalent to that infinite purpose. So therefore that is the secret behind creating wealth and happiness in life. Now, this is the essence of this paragraph number 39. Now very beautifully this is brought out, that a concept of, because many people misunderstand that the Bhagavad Gita is about telling you to renounce everything and to leave life and to go to the mountains and just meditate. Absolutely not. This is a beautiful operation manual which is telling all of us that we have to start looking at things more intelligently. We don't blindly run behind, just becoming rich and famous. We look at the intelligent thought of creating value, creating wealth in a very intelligent way. So the buddhi becomes stronger than the mind. Now that is the essence of para number 39. And then he goes on in this paras 40 to say that, whatever, so there is a doubt generally in anybody when you want to start. Suppose you want to start a business, there is a doubt in your mind that what if. Now this what if is a very difficult word which comes to all our minds when we start something new. What if all the efforts that I'm taking do not lead to the result that I'm looking at and it goes in vain? What if the direction that I'm taking is not successful and I become a failure? And therefore I start doubting myself and I don't even take that first step. Now, now the beauty of this in this book, by Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, what he's written is Arjuna understands the psychology of the mind of the of sorry, Krishna understands the psychology of Arjuna even before Arjuna is saying something. Of course, he has told his part and he has kept quiet, and now he's listening to Krishna. And Krishna is understanding what is running in the mind of this person. Very similar to any one of us who decides to start something and say, okay, for example, you leave a job and say, I'm going to start my own business. Now, what are the thoughts that run in your mind? What are those doubts? What are those anxieties? All those things are being understood by Krishna. And he's addressing it in this para 40, saying that don't worry, whatever you do, every single effort that you take in this direction, because this is an intelligent step that you're taking. Any step taken with intelligence to create value will always yield positive result. You may think that you are failing, but it is adding value to you. So don't worry about it. Go ahead and start applying your intelligence in whatever action you are taking, is what he mentions in para 40 here. Okay. And then he goes on to 41 where he says that, if you do not do this, if you do not, now what happens if you do not do this intelligent thinking? And you say, no, no, this is not right, I will continue doing what my mind is telling me to do, and I will run behind my desires, and I'll keep focusing on the so-called result or the outcome of earning money and fame and recognition and all that. What happens after that? So he says that, if a mind is intelligent, you are building a sole focus in one area. In para 41 he talks to this point where he says you're building a focus. It's a single point focus. So that buddhi or that intelligence which has understood how to work intelligently and applying itself on the mind in that direction to create value is single focused, is got complete a laser focus to achieve that particular goal of creating that wealth, and will not get distracted which otherwise, which an other non-intelligent mind, which is just going to achieve money or whatever, is going to get distracted into so many more areas, which is exactly what happens. Just imagine, so many proposals you get, you start working on something, people start calling you up, you can do this, you can do that, so your mind is going everywhere. How do you focus? How do you build focus? And the real motivation to work for anybody in the real world comes when you're working on a cause, when you're working with an intention to add value to someone. So the questions that everybody needs to ask is, when you're doing any work, whether it's a job in a company, whether you're working in the services, whether you are doing a business, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a student, the question you need to ask is, whatever work you are doing, who is the target audience that you are impacting? Think about it. It's a very deep question, but we need to keep thinking this in our mind constantly. You may not get the answers today, but you will definitely find a convergence, because every work is affecting someone in the world. So, therefore, we need to understand very clearly, whatever work we are doing, whom is it impacting? Who is the target audience? And if you're able to focus on a particular target audience, a specific target audience, and put your energy in that direction, impact is guaranteed, and the result that is going to come will definitely fulfill your desires. But if you are not having your target audience clear, and you are going anywhere and everywhere, the probability of success is going to be much lower. You may achieve some success in the short term, but in the long term it's definitely not going to get you the result that you are looking at. And therefore these paragraphs are extremely important in the chapter 2, which tell us that the intelligence that you have has to be used properly, and therefore you have to build focus, and you have to divert your intelligence, or make your intelligence control the mind and not let it run astray towards the objects of the world. And that's the entire essence of this para 39, 40, 41 that has come out here. And then he talks about 42. In 42 and 43, Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan has mentioned that in those days there's too much of ritualistic tendencies were there in people. So Bhagavad Gita has actually brought out the vanity, or the uselessness of just blindly following rituals, and said that it's not sufficient for people to just offer flowers and chant and do puja and all that. It's not sufficient. That may get you some results, but that is not the real intelligent way of working, is what he brings out here. And then he also brings out the aspect in para 44 and 45 about the how the mind gets trapped by the three gunas of nature, that is the rajasic guna, tamasic guna, and sattvic guna, and we keep running behind those objects of the world, and how our intelligence is used to overcome the effect of these three gunas, and how to become a stronger person. Now this is an observation power that each one of us has, and which is where I link this entire paragraphs to vipassana, which teaches us a skill of learning to observe your own thoughts by observing sensations on your body. So just look at it so beautifully. You have a Bhagavad Gita which is giving you a complete situation, and how the conversation is happening between Krishna and Arjuna, and how in vipassana we are actually practicing a skill to become those silent observers of what is running in our mind, in our thoughts, in our brains, intelligence that is there, to observe what is running there, and then try and just understand everything, so that the intelligence automatically starts directing the mind. So there is no forcible thing out here at all. What happens is, we already have the intelligence and the potential to do things the right way. It is just that we have lost the observation power, when we are going into our conscious way of knowing how the mind is working. 95% of the day we spend doing things which is done from our subconscious mind itself. The consciousness of that is not there. For example, you're eating food, you're just eating food. Sometimes we keep talking while eating food. How many times are we conscious about what we are doing? So this power, or this intelligence, is about becoming conscious, or becoming mindful of what we are doing at any moment. And that is exactly what this brings about. Now we have a lot of these workshops on mindfulness and on observing yourself and meditation. Actually, this is the essence of what this chapter is talking about, what vipassana talks about. And also we understand that whenever we are in a process of doing something with a lot of good intentions, with a lot of passion, with your heart and soul into it, you are in flow. And the concept of flow also connects beautifully here, saying that now you don't see time, you don't see what is the time spent in doing that work. You're completely in your own elements because your intentions are good, your mind is very clear, and therefore you're able to just give it your best shot, and you're focusing on giving maximum impact to your target audience. And I think that's a beautiful statement, or beautiful lesson that we are learning from the Bhagavad Gita, Vipassana, and the concepts of flow and the habits that we build. So all these converge. So there's nothing, no compartmentalization in learning here. The learning is universal. We got to pick up the good aspects from all the scriptures that we have, also the books that are there, the workshops that are being done, and try and converge how we can apply it in our life. So to summarize today's session, we have learned that there is this buddhi, there is an intelligence that all of us possess, which is extremely powerful, provided we become conscious of our own thoughts, and instead of letting our thoughts be controlled by the desires that we have, or the outcomes of material desires that we have, and the objects of the world, we tend to focus on the target audience. We create a purpose, and we start focusing on creating value and wealth for the world, and in a harmonious way. So this brings harmony, and this brings necessarily what it is that when you put in such efforts, the outcomes that you had desired, or the material objects of the world, will also be an outcome of it. So this is for the youth to understand that it's more important to have a purpose and have a cause which we can all work towards. So define your target audience, define the impact that you want to create for them, do something really wonderful, because we are all unlimited, we have a beautiful intelligence given to us, and we need to use it in the right way. With this, I would like to end today's session. I hope there is some learning that we have drawn out of this paragraphs of Bhagavad Gita, the Vipassana skill that we have, and of course the different workshops and different educators that are there in the world today, who are trying to give us lessons on how we should be spending our time helping the world create value and wealth for the entire world. I'm With this, I want to thank everyone for listening to me, and look forward to creating many more such sessions. So till the time the next session comes here, see you guys in the next episode. Bye.